I was an NES kid growing up. You know, I went from the Atari ST to the NES, got my issue of Nintendo Power, my subscription of Nintendo Power, and eventually started getting these player's guides. This is one of them, Game Boy. And I remember flipping through this and seeing all these amazing games that you could take on the go. So I asked for a Game Boy one Christmas, and I got it. This Game Boy right here. Now, this particular one, who knows what happened to that. And I did get some enjoyment out of this thing for about a year until probably the Super Nintendo came out. However, I did enjoy it for what it was. I didn't have a huge library of games for it. I only had 3 or 4. And we couldn't rent games on this thing like we could on Super Nintendo and NES, at least not any video store that I went to. But anyway, let's just get right into my top 10. Now, the first game on my list, number 10, is a game that I didn't discover until I was an adult collector, and that is Quark. Puzzle games are an absolute perfect fit for the Game Boy. Games that you can sit and play for 10, 15, 20 minutes. So I've covered Quark before. In basic, simple terms, you have to get from one end of the room to the next and exit the room. Obviously, that's easier said than done, as you have to get through several different turnstiles, pits, and all these different obstacles. It can get pretty challenging, especially in the later levels, which is pretty common in puzzle games. Obviously, you want to get it more difficult as you go along, and it's a good game. It is challenging. I haven't gotten far in it, and maybe that's just because I'm stupid. This game is very good at making you feel extremely smart or extremely dumb. But regardless, Quark remains one of my favorite puzzle games on the Game Boy itself, and actually of any console ever. So it is definitely a good. A lot of times it's hard to do a good shooter on the Game Boy. Or actually just kind of a mobile system in general, because the screen is so small. But Solar Striker, however, it is actually easier for me to pick up and play and not get annihilated because I can't see what's going on in the screen. There's really not much to say about Solar Striker. It's a shooter. You get 6 stages, you have to defend the Earth against aliens. I mean, it is a shooter game, but there's just something about it that just really lends itself well to portability and a small screen. And maybe that's just because that's what I'm used to playing it on, and so my mind just goes there. But I think it fits well, and it's one of my favorite games to just pick up and play. So it is perfect on the Game Boy. Next up on the list is a game that I actually ended up playing as a kid. I didn't own it. I'm pretty sure I had to have borrowed it from a friend one night. But, that's TMNT 2, Back from the Sewers. Now, this game may not be amazing by any means, but I do have a little bit of love for it just because I do have good memories of it. Now, that's not to say that it's a bad game either. It's not. It's a standard Turtles game. You go from one end of the screen to the next, and you slash and beat up everyone in sight. Now, it starts off super easy and gets extremely difficult, especially with the bosses. And a lot of times the enemies will be pretty cheap, kind of coming out of nowhere, and you don't have any choice but to get hit. And the boss battles are really hard. Did I say that the boss battles were hard? I have to say it twice because that's how hard they are, especially as you progress in the game. Now, the graphics are really super cool, especially with the bosses themselves, the detail in them and the detail in the backgrounds. It's really good, and to me it really makes it stand out. But to me, it's on my top 10 list simply because it's a Turtles game. I have great memories of it, and it's not half bad. Next up, we have a really fun puzzle game called Bubble Ghost. With October coming up, you definitely want to play some creepy, haunted games. And I can't think of much better on the Game Boy than a game where you are an actual ghost. And your objective is to take this bubble that's floating around for some reason, and you have to blow it to the exit point. Now, that sounds super easy, except obviously it's not. If it touches anything in the stage, wall, fan, anything at all, your bubble will burst and you die. Well, you don't die, but you have to start over again. It's frustrating to say the least. It's slow-paced to say the least, but it is, in my opinion, very addicting. And that's the mark of a really good puzzle game, if it's addicting, and this one I think really is. And not only that, you have to really be focused. You have to really concentrate and focus on what you're doing, and also have quick reflexes. So if you're a focused, quick reflexed person and you like to be a ghost and play a game where you blow a bubble, This is your game, and you should check it out. Now, I love Contra, so you probably knew that there was going to be a Contra game on this, and of course, I'm going to have to give it to Operation C. Now, some people consider Operation C a watered-down version of Super C on the NES, and while there are kind of some similarities to it, I just don't see it. It's just, to me, it seems like it's a completely different game. There's different bosses, there's different levels. It's a different game. Now, granted, there are only 5 levels in the game, 3 side-scrolling and 2 overhead. However, to me, it doesn't take away the experience of the game, and I think it's really fun. It's Contra on the go, and it's the Contra that we've all come to know and love. And also, you can upgrade the spread weapon to even spread more. Now, the game is relatively easy when compared to other Contra games, and that's okay because I'm not always looking to get my ass kicked whenever I put a cartridge into my Game Boy system. I enjoy the game, and I think you should check it out as well. I remember going through issues of Nintendo Power back when I had the Game Boy, and I would look through them, and I would even look through this guide right here, and I would see Mega Man. Mega Man is featured in this, but some of the other Mega Man games like 2 and 3 were also featured in Nintendo Power, and I remember looking at those screenshots and just wanting to play those games so bad, and I never did. I never got them. I couldn't play Mega Man on the go, and it really hurt me deeply. Okay, not really. But I still really wanted to play those games, and I never got a chance to until I got older. And I realized that most of them, 1 through 4, were in fact just the games on the NES ported to the Game Boy and watered down quite considerably. However, one does stand out, and that's Mega Man 5. Mega Man 5 is a standalone, totally new, unique adventure. It's not a port of anything else. The theme in this one is planets, and all the bosses in the game are in fact planet-based. There's 8 of them. And in this game, Mega Man actually takes his arm and shoots it off, and it comes back like a boomerang, which I think is awesome. Mega Man 5, unfortunately, this one is kind of hard to find and expensive when you do find it. But if you do, I recommend picking it up because it is definitely one of the best Game Boy games out there. Next up on the list is a game that I actually had covered on my Hidden Gems video, and that's Alien 3. It always seems like there's an Alien 3 game that makes my list, and I think that's because I was so obsessed with Alien 3 when the movie came out. I had to play every game that there was, and this game I actually had as a kid. I don't remember when I got it, but I ended up getting it. And a lot of nostalgia does play into some of my picks, but this one I think stands on its own. I think it's a really true hidden gem on the Game Boy. It has this atmosphere about it, and I mentioned that before. It does have this atmosphere where it's just really super creepy, and it gives off that vibe that you're in this desolate base, and you're in pursuit of all these different aliens, and you could just run into any alien at any point around the corner, and it gives off this creepy vibe, and I think that's one of those intangibles that a game sometimes have that really just kind of puts it over the edge, in my opinion. And this game, with that intangible of that just creepy atmosphere, puts it over the edge and makes it just a lot better than it would be if it didn't have it. As hard as this is to believe, I actually didn't play Super Mario Land as a kid on the Game Boy. As huge of a Mario fan as I was, I never played it. It doesn't make any sense. I guess I'd never had a friend that owned it, and I never asked for it. And it just didn't seem like a Mario game to me too, because I actually saw it in the guide, and it was like, this is a little weird. And as I played it as an adult, when I actually got the game later, when I started collecting, it didn't seem like a Mario game either. And I think it was developed by somebody completely different. It's okay, it's not bad, but it just doesn't feel like a Mario game. This Super Mario Land 2, however, does feel like a Mario game. Now, it does feel like a Mario game, however, it does offer a really nice change of pace, as opposed to most other Mario games up to that point. For instance, there is no Bowser, there is no Princess Peach, no Wario steals your house, your castle, and you have to collect 6 golden coins to get back into the house and kick that jerk out of your home. I love the way the world is designed. I love the way the stages are designed. I like the power-ups, you grow feathers and you get to float around because you grab a carrot. It makes total sense. But it's a Mario game, it's not supposed to make sense. Why does a feather give you a cape? Why does a leaf give you a raccoon tail? It doesn't matter. It's a Mario game, and this is more of the same, but still different, and gives you a nice little change of pace as well, which I like. Whenever I play this game, I'm just kind of amazed that they're able to stuff this much into a small little cart, and it really does seem to be bigger than what you would actually normally experience on the Game Boy, because the Game Boy did have a lot of ports from different games ported onto itself, but cut down, sized down quite considerably. A lot of things taken out. Mega Man series, for example. This one is its own adventure, and it's a lot to it. It's very, very involved, a lot of stages, and it's really impressive. Number 2 for me is going to be kind of a surprise if you've watched the other lists that I've done, because this series never popped up on it. And it's a series that I actually never played until the Game Boy, until I was in my 30s, because I didn't play this as a kid. I didn't play any of the games as a kid. That's the Metroid series, and this is Metroid II. So I'm somewhere in my 30s. I started collecting Game Boy games. I come across this lot. I don't remember exactly where it was, but I come across this lot, and in the lot there is a Metroid II. And I remember actually just getting addicted to it, like right then and there. I didn't really play much of the other games. There was like a copy of Street Fighter II, which was horrible, and I never picked that up again. And Killer Instinct, and that, oh my god. But Metroid 2, I was sitting there playing that all night, and for the rest of the week I was playing that game. And usually I don't like games like that, where you're trapped in a maze and you got to figure out where to go. And I think that's probably what turned me off about the Metroid series to begin with. But for this, I don't know what it was. It just sucked me right in, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I ended up actually having to get a map to see where I was going, but once I did that and realized, you know, where all the different weapons were and where I could go and what I could use to get to where I need to go, it was a masterpiece in my opinion. And it's a huge game. I was talking about Super Mario Land 2 and how they fit that on a cartridge like this. This is a huge game, and the fact that they were able to fit this huge of an adventure onto the Game Boy like this is a marvel, to say the least, but not as big as the next game. Alright, we've come to number 1, and I'm sure a lot of you probably aren't going to be surprised by the fact that I have Link's Awakening as number 1. This is another game that I've actually had as a kid, and I played Zelda for the first time with Link to the Past, but once that game was done, I wanted to get more of a Zelda fix. I wanted to play the other games. Why I didn't play the original NES game after that, I have no idea. I guess I was just so done with NES at that point. Stupid looking back on it, but at that time, that's probably what I was thinking. However, I had a Game Boy, so I decided I was going to get Link's Awakening. Now this game was a lot different from Link to the Past, obviously, but it did still have that Zelda feel to it. The exploration, the puzzles, the boss fights, it was all there. The fact that you had to jump by using the feather, different items that we weren't ever used to before. This actually introduced a lot of different stuff that was new to Zelda. At the time, I didn't realize it wasn't in the first game, but I knew it was vastly different from Link to the Past, but I was still having a great time with it. I mean, this is one Game Boy game that you're not gonna sit down and play for 5, 10, 20 minutes at a time. This is a Game Boy game that you're gonna sit and play it hours at a time, and it's gonna take you days and weeks to finish it, and that's exactly what happened with me. I would sit in the corner of the couch and just sit there and play Game Boy all day and play this game, and it was that involved, it was that huge, and it was this gigantic world crammed onto this little cart, and it's crazy to think about. But yeah, that adventure that you were going on Link's Awakening, it just in your mind just seemed as big as like A Link to the Past. At least it did for me. And for me, it was actually a little bit more difficult than Link to the Past. There were several times where I got absolutely stuck to the point where I had to just not play the game for a few days. And I didn't have a guide back then. There was no internet for me to look up and see what to do. But I just got so stuck that I don't think I ever actually beat the game until I was an adult. I got stuck in the game as a kid, and I got far. I think I pretty much got like halfway, if not 3/4 of the way through it. And I think I did. I stopped the game and I never played it again. Wow, that's some gumption. That's giving it your all, right? But yeah, whenever I started collecting again, that was the one of the games that I got first, and I ended up beating it for the first time because I had the internet to guide me through it. But anyway, that's my top 10 list on Game Boy games. The Game Boy was such an awesome system. Now, when I'm playing Game Boy games now, I don't play it on the original brick console. I play them on the Game Boy SP to get that backlit and that nice, beautiful screen. And that's how I play them, because going back and playing them on that brick now, it's just like, I can't see. I can't see it. And my eyes are older, granted, but I just don't see how you do it anymore. So anyway, thank you for watching.